I can't make vids inside. When James is around, he might be able to hear me because it might cause another emotional breakdown. It was only recently that I had realized I have not made any vids about James's emotional breakdowns to show you what has been done to him. I'm making this vid outside during traffic, so if I pause, it's because of traffic. I don't know if you can hear me over the traffic. James's first emotional breakdown was caused by Sergeant Harold Jones, Officer Michael Brewer, and a mystery woman who showed up at our apartment on August 30th, 2011, and interrogated him when he only had about an hour's worth of sleep and very little food. They interrogated him so bad, making him feel like he was a criminal, making him feel like he would be arrested just for knowing me. They treated him so badly that he had it caused him to have his first emotional breakdown 2 days later on September 1st, 2011, when I went to the police department to complain about the officer's treatment of both myself and him. Sorry, the receptionist was, well, less than cooperative. She claimed that the complaint form was out for revisal after looking through papers that were already on her desk as if she didn't know where it was. She told me I had to contact the chief of police or get an attorney. Well, I couldn't afford an attorney at the time, so I contacted the chief of police at the time, Mark Reiss. I called him right from the police station on my old phone, which had no camera capabilities. And I called him 3 different times. Once during James's first emotional breakdown. I have that first emotional breakdown audio recorded on audio tape. I hope to have that recorded onto CD at some point so I can add it to these vids so you can hear most of his emotional breakdown from the very beginning. What you won't know is that, I came back from the police station after trying to lodge a complaint, which was ignored, and told him that I couldn't get my stuff back, and, basically, he asked if it was over. I said no. He came to my room after I went there, and he asked again, is it over? And I told him no. His reaction was shocking, to say the least. It still hurts, because I can still picture it. What happened was he just broke down. He dropped to the floor on his knees and cried out, "I did nothing wrong! I did nothing wrong! Why are they doing this?" Of course, he was talking about himself and how they treated him. Unfortunately, I don't have that recorded because I did not expect it. I did not expect such a reaction. But I did have the presence of mind to record the rest of it. I managed to get new batteries, a tape, and an audio recorder and record the rest of it. In it, you hear me talking to him about the interrogation that I went through by Sergeant Harold Jones, how the pre-interview form actually had only 3 words on it: computer crime, singular, not plural, and the word porn on the second line farther in, which is what made it stick in my mind. At any rate, you hear him going on, you hear him say that he wants to, he doesn't want to live. After he said that, I called the chief, Mark Reiss, to tell him what his officers did to my roommate. I wanted him to know that his officers made my roommate suicidal from that point on. And he ignored my call. I called once from the police station. I called that time, as I just mentioned, and I called a third time later on. Each time was ignored. And each time I told him I wanted to lodge a complaint, and I mentioned officers who I wanted to complain against, including Sergeant Harold Jones. I wanted to complain against Sergeant Harold Jones, Officer Michael Sullivan, and Officer David Schmidt. These are the officers I knew at the time who were actually involved. These requests to complain were ignored by Chief Mark Reiss, who is now apparently some sort of director, I guess, of some kind, in Greenfield, Michigan. I'd have to look it up again. Point is, he ignored all my requests to complain about these officers. Yet I know he got these messages because 4 officers showed up claiming to be there to help James. I realized later on they were not really there for that. But it shows that Mark Reiss got my call and ignored my right to complain about those officers. As I mentioned, I will try to get a recording. I will try to get the original recording onto CD so you can hear the original, what I have of the original breakdown. But what you will not know is what happened physically. As I mentioned, James had dropped to his knees. But after a while, all of a sudden, without warning, he went silent. Just cut off and tipped over. At one point he was upright, kneeling, and he just tipped over onto his side. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry, it hurts to remember. He tipped over onto his side, made no sound. He couldn't move a muscle. I found this out later from him. He couldn't move a muscle. His entire body just locked. Not even his eyelids could be moved. All he could do was hear. They had to carry him out on a rubber tarp. 4 people. When the medics showed up, the EMV, whatever it's called, they had to carry him out like that. I don't know what it took for his body to unlock, but finally it did. But this emotional breakdown was caused by Sergeant Harold Jones, Officer Michael Brewer, and a mystery woman. I'm not going to lie about this. This is the truth. And yet he got away with it. And it took years of therapy that I gave James in order to make him no longer have emotional breakdowns. I have audio recordings from my old phone, which had no camera capability, of some of his other breakdowns, and I could not record all of them. Like, if he knew I had been recording him, it would have caused more emotional breakdown. But he knows now that, he's known about them now, and so has no problem with them. But you will hear basically a few minutes or so. Some people are assholes, with that honking shit. When this traffic is done, you'll hear minutes of each breakdown that I had recorded, unedited. And in one of these breakdowns is also memory loss. On May 8th of I'm not sure, maybe 2014, I'm not sure, no, 2013. So I think 2013. One word from my probation officer was enough to send James into an emotional breakdown again. Just one word. And it was a word that he didn't even have to fear, but he did. He had such an emotional breakdown that he couldn't stop screaming. It was constant. He had no shut-off switch. He kept screaming, and I don't have that on audio recording, but that is what happened. May 8th of 2013. And what's worse, what is so much worse, is that the very next month, practically to the day, we were having an argument, and all of a sudden, without warning, he asked me who I am. Then he asked who he was. Then he thought he was somebody else. His mind had been so traumatized by Sergeant Harold Jones's interrogation of him that it literally blocked out almost all memories from 2001 to 2013, to that moment. He didn't know who I was, so I managed to get him to know who he was. I managed to remind him that his father had moved from Westmoreland Court to Darby Road. His mind blocked all those memories, even of meeting me. It was that bad. So not only is Sergeant Harold Jones responsible for for James becoming suicidal, but also for the memory loss that he experienced. Thankfully, the next day, his father convinced him that it was in his mind, and he went to the crisis center and met with Dr. Dyer, who helped him out and gave him Abilify, which helped. But he lost his memory. Years of it. All because of Sergeant Harold Jones's interrogation of him. The man is a monster. And the courts allowed him to get away with it. I could. And this could be done to your family, not just mine. I don't want it to happen to anyone else. Especially not what happened to him. It gets worse. Ever since that memory loss, every now and then when his emotions got too strong, no matter if it was happy or sad or anger, he'd get headaches on the left side of his brain. Or is it the right? I don't know. Either way, he would end up forgetting occasionally, and he could not think. He could only be emotional. I have lost track of how many times I've had to cure his headaches and bring him back to normalcy. It's still not over. Anyways, it took years of therapy to stop these emotional breakdowns. And we tried psychiatrists all over the place, and they did nothing but add to his trauma. And these are professionals, for crying out loud. Because of a policy or whatever, they couldn't see him or they couldn't help him. We tried so many people to get help, and we couldn't find anyone. It took years of therapy that I gave him. Time-tested methods that finally worked, but it took years. But then something happened. May 27th of 2014, I think. I have that in another video, so you can know what caused new emotional breakdowns. And these aren't really new because they're just continuations of what Sergeant Harold Jones did. But he had breakdowns because of another person recently. He's found back up on the medication, back to seeing a therapist. Damn traffic. I want you people to know what he went through. And I'm surprised it took me this long to actually realize that I should have put these in a video. Now, I don't know much about this freeware vid, and piecing things together, so it may not be so good. But I'm going to try. I need you people to see what Sergeant Harold Jones, Officer Michael Brewer, and a mystery woman did to my family member, James's family, and I'm now his caregiver because of this. I want you people to hear what he went through. What are these new emotional breakdowns caused by Dan Dorco, an owner of Amy Apartments at 4860 Springfield Street? Don't rent there, trust me. I have a vid of his first emotional breakdown on that day, on the day of May 27th, about 2014, when Dan Dorco showed up at our door. We didn't even know who he was. I got that in another vid, so I'm not going to say much about it here. But that's what caused his new emotional breakdowns, is that person. And at least I have a vid of that, so you can actually see his face and body contort in agony and torture. Because this is what I've had to see every time he had an emotional breakdown caused directly by Sergeant Harold Jones's unlawful interrogation of him. But nobody seems to care, it seems, in the justice system. The judge didn't care, Judge Michael Tucker. The mayor didn't care. I have videos about that. I'm hoping that after some of you see these vids and hear his emotional breakdowns, that you will care and that you will do whatever you can to help. I don't know how you can help, but please help. It's not just my name to be cleared. It's his life to be given back to him. He deserves his life to be given back to him. Myron Taylor, a 12-year-old person, intelligent, caring, was also traumatized by Sergeant Harold Jones and Officer Michael Brewer and this mystery woman on the same day. Both Myron Taylor and my roommate gave contradictory, false statements against me, which prove my innocence. And I posted that on YouTube earlier. So James is not the only victim. In fact, I'm a victim in a way as well. I have been traumatized. When in the back of Sullivan's cruiser on August 28th, 2011, after signing something I didn't know I shouldn't have signed, a trespass form, he claimed that another officer wanted to speak to me, and I have this, I believe, in another video. That officer, David Schmidt, I found out later, he yelled at me, he cursed at me, he called me names like sick fuck, all that. And then the door clicked, unlocked. Sullivan was the only one who could unlock that door. And David Schmidt opened that door. And David Schmidt continued his verbal abuse, adding to it physical intimidation by getting up close in my face, putting his finger in my face. And all this supposedly recorded on Sullivan's cruiser camera. By the way, his camera actually said date August 26th for some reason, but it was August 28th. But his camera, cruiser camera, if it was on, should have been recording that. This is why that cruiser recording is missing, not even mentioned in police reports, not shown as evidence. And Sullivan's report makes a claim about me saying something. Actually, his report claims that I admitted to something in the cruiser. Now, if I did, why is that cruiser recording missing? But that's one key evidence that needs to be found, because that shows that I was traumatized, that I was verbally abused, and I was physically intimidated by those officers. The only thing that keeps me going, that keeps my breakdowns from happening too often, too much, is what they did to my family member, James Thomas, and to what they did to Myron Taylor and to others. It's my anger at the injustice that keeps me from breaking down. But in my videos, you'll notice that I am twitching. I have Tourette's. It's a neuromuscular condition. A neuromuscular condition in which I have twitches of my head, my shoulders, my arms, my legs. I used to have it under control years and years ago, before the whole thing started. So when you see me twitch, you know that I'm emotional, because it's a result of my emotional state. My Tourette's also went off during the interrogation with Sergeant Harold Jones, and that shows that I was in a very emotional state, very traumatized state during the interrogation. This alone should have shown that, the whole interrogation should have been thrown out the window. But, hey, Judge Michael Tucker didn't really care about the truth. And I'm betting it's because he saw the false broadcast that whio-tv did on the evening of December 15th, 2011. A broadcast which claimed that I was going around hypnotizing children for sexual purposes, and actually had a person hidden in shadow except for their forearms. That shadow was my vengeful neighbor, Mary Weaver, who only wanted revenge against me because I made her responsible for her unlawful actions against multiple neighbors by playing her music too loudly. She didn't care what happened. She did not care what the police would do to James. So there are a lot of people in this who don't want the truth to be heard, who want to not let it be out, because Mary Weaver could go to jail for what she did. And I hope she does. I hope the truth does get out completely. Mary Weaver, if you were watching this, believe me, I'm going to make sure that you end up in jail, because you deserve to be. The truth needs to be spoken. And you could have helped, and you could have shown that you were remorseful by helping out, but you did not. You care more about yourself than anybody else. And I'm betting that's why you and your husband no longer live together, because he finally stood up to you about this. My roommate, hold on, I gotta call. I'm gonna have to piece this to the first vid. I got interrupted by a guy who needed to know where Old North Dayton was. Thankfully, he gave me a clue as to what he was looking for. Anyways, basically, the whole point is that the truth needs to come out, and I hope that those of you who hear and see my roommate, my family members' breakdowns, will be as heartbroken as I am over this. I'm hoping that you will help to give him his life back, to give Myron Taylor his life back, to hopefully give me my life back. So please watch the vids. And I know that the police are going to see this, because I believe that one of the anonymous subscribers is probably Sergeant Harold Jones. I'll mention that in another vid. No, another train going to make noise. Great. I'm going to end this now, and hopefully you people will help. Thank you.